Vroom, vroom. Hello, everybody, and welcome to
the Macaw Podcast universe.
It's the only podcast in the world about movies.
That's not true.
And what is the tagline of our show, Jordan?
We might be the only podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
And if I'm remembering this correctly, your name is Jordan.
And your name is Micah.
And we're married.
Mm-hmm.
And our last name's Macaw.
Yep.
And that's why it's called the Macaw Podcast universe.
Yeah, good job.
Now, last year, let's roll it all the way back. For the duration, the 4 years that we've done this podcast, everyone has always said, when you doing Fast and Furious? When you doing Fast and Furious? And I have several critics, people that I hope one day will be on this show, make videos about it, talk about it on their podcasts, about how this series is actually quite excellent.
So they say.
So they say. And last year, we went through the conglomerate that is Fast and Furious, including Hobbs and Shaw. And Jordan and I found it to be an arduous and unforgiving task.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was everything we had hoped it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
Except for two movies.
Yeah, two of them were good. Genuinely good.
Yeah, it was Fast 5 and Furious 7. And those movies were really, really good. And they balanced the bombasticness. They had a fun story. They were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as is customary with our podcast, we have to come in when there is a new movie that hits theaters and cover it.
So we were not looking forward to this movie. We were looking forward to it with a lot of dread.
So much dread. Judge Dredd, in fact.
Yeah, not familiar if that's an accurate comparison or not. I know who it is, but
I'm not either.
Oh, okay.
But so we went, and my expectation could not have been lower for this movie.
I think I had negative expectations.
I figured that it would be the worst of all of the movies.
Yeah. The trailers looked really bad.
Real bad.
And I will admit, and I will speak for you too, we were going into this movie with bias because we really don't like these movies.
Yeah. And now I don't want to, I think we need to reserve our what happened. Let's keep the buildup happening. Because I know that our listeners are probably eagerly anticipating. They're waiting for a dunk contest. Because this week, or last week, I start seeing those same critics I'm talking about that I follow and enjoy their criticisms, giving the movie 2 stars on Letterboxd, 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. Griffin Newman said, more like Fast sucks with a capital X. All these people are like, man, this movie's pretty bad. Yeah. And the Metacritic is lower than a movie like Fast 6, which I found to be almost unwatchable.
Yeah.
And so I am just like, this is going to be really tough. But our friend Sean Muir, who's on our Speed episode, and who will have a little tag after the credits that you can listen to his opinion, he came up from Davis because there was a show.
Sacramento.
Huh?
West Sacramento.
Yes. You're right. West Sacramento. Yes. There was a show that he wanted to see, and then he was like, do you guys want to see this movie? I know you have to see it. So the 3 of us went and saw the movie, which that sweetens the deal. Mm-hmm. Now it's like fun time with friend you don't see too often. Mm-hmm. We went and saw it. And now I should probably tell you about the production, right?
If that's what you would like to do.
I kind of would.
Okay.
I kind of would. You know, I got to earn these ad dollars that we don't have. So, a couple of things that I want to point out. For one, unbeknownst to myself, I had bought tickets F9, F10, and F11. So Jordan sat in F11, the future of the Fast and Furious movies. I sat in F10, the current of the Fast and Furious movies, and Sean sat in the previous entry. I thought that was funny. Mm-hmm. And then before we get into this, I wanted to make a little amendment footnote to an old episode of our podcast, which I told you about. I watched this movie called 3 Ages by Buster Keaton last week. Would totally recommend. It's an awesome movie. It's 1 hour long. It's on YouTube. And in the movie, he does this stunt where he has to jump over an alley. Mm-hmm. And he misses.
From building to building.
Yes, thank you.
Classic jump from building to building, rooftop jump.
Yes, thank you. And he misses and falls down like 3 flights, like 3 stories or something like that. Actually, I think more than that. and then hits like awning.
Catches himself.
Yeah. And they were like, man, they actually rewrote the rest of the movie to account because he was supposed to make the jump.
Yeah, because I watched the scene and he ends up like on a gutter or a drainage pipe, like swings into the building. So I'm assuming they added that fun stuff.
Yeah, okay. They did. And so
because he wasn't supposed to fall. That's the headline.
Yeah,
he fell. He did not clear it, and he literally fell 3 stories.
Yeah, I think it may have been a couple more stories, but it was a lot.
Yeah,
and I was listening to Blank Check,
and this was a time in history when there were no protection. There was no protection, so like he was not hooked up to anything. He just fell. If he had not caught himself, he probably would have died. If you don't know who Buster Keaton is, that's your problem.
And side note, if you are like, those are silent films, I'd never watch them. Buster Keaton is probably the most watchable silent film person.
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin I find to be incredibly watchable as well. But Buster Keaton, he does so many stunts that actually are mind blowing by today's standards.
Yeah.
Stuff that people would not allow performers to do.
No,
today.
Because of insurance now.
Yeah. But all that to say, in John Wick Chapter 3, we extensively complained about the fall at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've since found out that Chad Stahelski is a huge fan of Buster Keaton. I mean, that makes sense. John Wick 2 opens with a shot from Buster Keaton, one of his movies. And I've since found out that scene where he falls is an homage to Three Ages, which doesn't necessarily make it better, but I did rewatch the John Wick shot, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have a problem with this. This is great. So, gotta give you that amendment. And we're going to be talking a lot about stunts today, so that sets the table. Now, let's talk about this movie. It is directed by Louis Leterrier, and this harkens back to our second episode ever because he directed The Incredible Hulk, he directed the Transporter movies, Clash of the Titans, and recently the Dark Crystal show.
Oh.
The screenplay is by Dan Mazu, who did Wrath of the Titans, and later this year, Damsel, and this movie, and that's it.
Yep.
Justin Lin, who we've talked extensively about in this series.
He's the fast guy.
And then the story credits are the same, but they include Zach Dean, who worked on the Tomorrow War. The cinematography is by Stephen F. Winden, who did Tokyo 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
What is that?
Of the Fast and Furious movies.
Oh, I thought you were...
Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about... There's this series called Tokyo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the music is by Brian Tyler, who did 7 of the Fast and Furious movies.
Okay.
And this movie... Do you want to guess what budget this movie has or no?
Well, is it a shared production or not?
I'm not sure. I couldn't quite get total confirmation on that, but it's an astronomical budget.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's now the 7th highest budgeted movie ever.
So, okay, well, what?
$340 million budget.
It better darn well be a shared production. That's all I gotta say.
That is more than Avengers Endgame. Or, I mean, Infinity War.
Do you know how the movie's doing yet?
Well,
it's too early to tell.
If you include the worldwide receipts, it's already made like $380, I think.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's already made back its budget.
Okay.
Minus ads.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it should do just fine. And just for context, the first movie was $38 million. So this is almost 10 times the budget of the very first movie.
Oh my gosh.
Who'd have known they would ever get here?
The whole time I was watching this movie, I just was thinking like, let's just not forget, guys, that this whole franchise started as like a Point Break homage or ripoff, up to you. And they were stealing DVD players.
I really think, because everyone knows going into this that they had announced this was a 2-parter epic finale, a la Avengers and Harry Potter and all those other movies. And I really think in the next movie, they need to figure out a way to incorporate DVD players.
That would be awesome.
Because they need to homage back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
So part of the budget of this movie, though, is the COVID protocols and stuff. Like, movies are more expensive to make when you make them during COVID.
Yeah.
But also the cast is quite extensive, and everyone's really expensive now. But I did read that it will need to make approximately $850 million to turn a profit.
Oof.
Um,
Do you think it will?
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
I mean, they always make money no matter what.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a
Yeah.
problem. So here's the timeline.
Do they have a similar
Oh,
drop
sorry.
off? If you happen to know, because you know how like Marvel movies have a crazy drop off after the first weekend.
Yeah.
Do you think that's do you know if that's the same with a franchise like this?
Since I started paying attention to box office, only one Fast and Furious movie has come out, and it was still pretty high in COVID time, so it's not really a fair judge of what they do.
I would be curious about that.
I think tomorrow I will probably know all that information because there'll be a BO Boys that I will have listened to, and they'll probably break it all down.
Let me know tomorrow.
I will. So here's the timeline on this movie. In 2014, they say that they're going to at least do 3, and that was when they were promoting Furious 7.
Yeah, okay.
And then in 2017, producer Neil H. Moritz said the 10th movie will be the final movie, and Chris Morgan is writing, and Justin Lin is being negotiated to direct.
A recipe for disaster.
Yeah. In 2020, Vin says that the movie could be 2 movies.
Okay.
So splitting it up. In June of 2021, Diesel says it is a 2-parter, and they're shooting it back to back. So I think that does mean that there is some sort of shared production.
It would be cheaper to be a shared production.
Yeah. But I mean,
I know with COVID protocol, depending on when they shot this, maybe that's not as possible. But
well, yeah, and the next movie comes out in 2025, so it feels like they do have to like start up production again. You know?
All these actors are all doing different stuff too. But it just feels like it would be like a no-brainer cheaper. Just lock these people in.
Yeah.
To do it.
Well, and there is, I mean, the way this movie ended, there's definitely a lot that they could probably shoot with certain actors and stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess that goes for all movies, but I don't know. I think that it's weirdly enough, this does feel like it will be a 2-parter finale. Mm-hmm. But I won't say quite yet.
2-parter finale. Including this movie. I'm just
yeah. Because going into this, I'm like, how is a Fast and Furious movie like a 2-part movie?
I know.
You know, with like comic books and a book series, that makes sense, and I think that it makes sense what they're doing.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. But you know, spoilers later. And then in December 2021, Dwayne reiterates that he is not returning to the series. Then they start shooting this movie in 2022. And days into shooting, Justin Lin quits the movie.
Why?
I'll tell you why. The script Lin thought was locked, and they were doing rewrites, and they were sending a writer to like punch up dialogue.
Okay.
He wasn't into that. They cut a Eastern European location because of the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
They hadn't cast one of the major villains in the movie yet. So
by the time they were filming?
Yeah, they're already filming.
That's not good.
Yeah. And then apparently, and this is hard because we don't know, but apparently him and Diesel had like a huge disagreement about something and a fight. That
is like so unbelievable to me that Vin Diesel would disagree with anyone about something.
I know, isn't that strange?
It's very unlike him.
Very unlike him. And so Lin says that he is leaving the movie because it's not worth his mental health.
Okay.
And by leaving the movie, he leaves like $8 or $10 million on the table that he could have made. So, I mean, good on him for being like, you know what? I don't need this. I don't have to do this.
Good for him. This has always kind of felt like, this is just how it feels. I know I'm not right or anything, but like his baby. Like this has been his thing, but it's also been Vin's thing.
Right.
And at some point, I think The Rock thought it could be his thing. And a lot of people, for some reason, are like love to claim ownership of this dumb series.
And yet, in the distance, there's a beaming light, and it is James Wan is the way forward. James Wan is the way forward.
That was a lightning in a bottle situation.
It was, and it sounded like he had a tough time making that movie. See our episode on it.
I wonder why. Maybe because there were a few people around that were like, "This is my thing, though, and you have to do it my way."
And dealing with a death as well.
That's a big thing too.
But yeah, I think he would. I think if he had a better experience on set, he would. Because they've always asked him. They always court him on future movies.
Oh, okay.
And they courted him on this, and he's like, I'm too busy with Aquaman.
Too busy with Aquaman, too busy making my new horror production company thing.
Yeah.
And let's just let him do that.
Yeah. But then Universal states that it was an issue with the studio, not the cast, crew, or producers of the movie. And that's why he left. Creative decisions. So, we don't get to know because Justin Lin is not an idiot. He's not just going to say and then get like blacklisted from Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I tend to think that, there's all of those things are probably all true.
Yeah.
And then, later reports allege that Lin clashed on set with Diesel, who purportedly arrived out of shape, was often late, and did not remember his lines.
He Marlo Brando'd the whole thing.
That's a thing where I don't think that's true.
What is out of shape for Vin Diesel, though?
Yeah, I see. That's where it's like, whoever wrote this, because this is, it's unsubstantiated. It's like sources say kind of stuff. But when I read that, I'm like, often late. Okay, I buy that. Clashing on set, arriving late, didn't remember lines. I can buy all that, but he's not showing up out of shape.
Yeah, that's weird.
The series is his baby. He's gonna remember the lines. So
maybe I don't know. I can kind of believe that though. Because I could see him kind of being a hotshot dude that's like, oh, I kind of remember the lines. This is kind of what they are.
Sure.
And then he says something and it's incorrect, and it's like it actually would have been. He would have we would have all gotten out of here on time today if you would have remembered your lines. I feel like that is kind of a hotshot actor thing.
That's true.
Because this, I don't know, it sounds dumb maybe, but it's like this is not a very complicated. It's not a very complicated story. This one in particular, in the past, they've overcomplicated their stories, but this one is not very complicated, and it's like it couldn't have been that hard for you to just memorize your lines.
These are very easy lines to remember. That's why I don't. I mean, he's got a huge personality. It just doesn't ring true to me. Even though I'm not like a Vin Diesel apologist or anything like that. But I mean, if people with Black Adam, a movie that Dwayne The Rock's been trying to make for 10 years, were like, yeah, he showed up and he wasn't even like learning his lines. I'm like, no. Like, he probably knew his lines because he's
wanted to make that movie for so long.
Passionate about this thing, and Vin Diesel's always been passionate. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
like
I'm wrong.
To know what out of shape means, though.
I just don't believe that at all. There's just no way.
Maybe when he did Guardians, he let himself go because he's just doing voice acting. He probably didn't even, wasn't even memorizing his lines for that.
Okay, that took me a second, but that's funny. Okay, so we have all that, and then they start talking to directors, and then they hire Letier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's French. I don't know how to pronounce it, but and Letier and Statham saw the first movie when they took a break while filming Transporter.
Okay.
I just thought that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
That they saw it, and they're both now a part of the franchise.
Okay.
And saw it together. Anyway. But this is a tough production. There was the scene where Theron and Rodriguez are fighting. There was no director.
What?
At that time.
How does that work?
Second unit's just directing that.
Good job, guys.
Maybe. We'll talk about it in a second.
For not having a director? Are you kidding me? Good job.
Yeah, so
why?
That's pretty wild.
What happened?
Because that's when Justin Lin had left.
Oh.
And so there's like weeks where there's no director and they're shooting
oh my
scenes
gosh, I can't imagine that.
I know. The director revealed that they wanted to forge the anti-Dom. Now, this is very funny to me. The next couple quotes I'm going to read.
Who said this?
The director.
Okay.
Speak to like the taking the series too seriously.
Yeah.
The anti-Dom. Dante is the yang of Dom's yin, the antichrist of his Christ. There are strong ties with Dante and Dom, and that is what makes an amazing villain, because you understand why they became this and their motivations. It's just funny calling him the Antichrist.
I disagree with all of that stuff. They are trying to make him a saint the whole time, though.
Yeah, and then Diesel at one point said, which I just think is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. What gets harder about the films is the work off screen, the thinking, the expanding. It's hard to continue mythologies. There's a reason why Tolkien stopped writing after a while.
What does that mean? Like, this is why he's going to be done with the series?
I think in preparing for this, like, that's why we're going to end it, But I just think it's so hilarious. I mean, it makes sense. He's a huge fantasy guy. Of
Oh,
course,
yeah,
he
yeah.
loves Tolkien. But being like mentioning Tolkien and Fast and Furious in the same sentence is, I feel bad doing it just now, and I should feel bad. He should feel a little shame for doing that.
I don't think he's capable.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there are several people in this franchise, most of them, who are incapable of feeling shame. And that's why we have 10 of them.
Yes. Yeah, someone should have been embarrassed somewhere along the line.
Including the people who have viewed this series and love it as much as I think they do. Not enough shame in everyone's lives.
But you might be sitting there making some decisions on what Jordan and I thought about this movie. But you may be surprised.
Don't press pause yet.
Keep listening. Brie Larson said that she's been begging to be in these movies, and it is her dream franchise.
Stop it. It's making me more upset with her.
Yeah.
In general. You gotta keep talking. I don't want to think about it.
The neighborhood that their house is at,
Yeah.
the Toretto house, is in Angelino Heights, which is the oldest neighborhood in Los Angeles.
Or we're just now finding this out?
I just saw some interesting stuff about it
okay.
this time. I've never thought to care about where the location.
I still don't care about it.
Well, what's interesting is they wanted to do all this stuff, putting rain on the streets and
like they shoot on location.
Yeah,
okay.
and do the stuff that would cause like safety measures.
Yep.
And a lot of the residents were protesting the movie, and they were like,
I don't blame them.
Well, they were like, you already attract so many people that like drag race in our neighborhood now.
Oh my gosh, that sucks.
And so now they're like, and now you want to like be doing like weeks of shooting like emergency stuff, because there's that scene in the movie where all the guys come in.
Yes.
So anyway, always interesting to know
how
it impacts a group of people.
Yeah.
Here's a fun one. I feel like the last few episodes that we've recorded, listeners don't know what they are yet, but there was just no information on the movie being made, so I'm like so excited that I actually have something to talk about. Several aerial shots were filmed with the first-person view drones with an attached red Komodo camera piloted by Johnny Scher, similar to the filming techniques that were used for the action sequence in Michael Bay's Ambulance.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
cool.
little ambulance setup.
Yeah.
Ambulance is changing cinema already.
I can't believe it.
And then a couple more things. In February of 2023, Diesel said in an interview that he really wants Robert Downey Jr. to be in the next movie.
You can't afford him. I mean, obviously that's not true because this is one of the most expensive movies ever made.
Yeah.
So you probably can afford him.
Yeah.
But you can't afford him.
Yeah.
Why would you want someone who has just as much, if not more, personality working with you?
Well, he poses no physical threat. That's why he wants him.
Okay, that is 100% true.
Now, if he was in the movie, who would he be related to? Because everyone's related to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is he doesn't have any, like, he's not a person of color in any degree, shape, or form, correct? He doesn't have, like, a dad from somewhere. I don't know.
I mean, not that I know of.
Well, I'm just trying to think, like, he can't really be related to any of the cast.
But that
except for the
I don't
nobodies.
think that really matters.
Well, that's true.
That
John
really...
Cena is the brother of
Dom. Is Charlize Theron his sister too? I can't remember.
No.
She's not?
No.
Is she no one? No, like in relation to nobody?
Robert Downey Jr., he'd be her dad. That's who
No, I don't like that. That's not good. I don't like it.
Usually the familiar relationships are not good.
I know, but we can do better.
Yeah.
I want her written out of the series completely.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And so I don't want any more character development thrown her way. So I think it would be fun. Well, I have one, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to say a spoiler. That would be interesting.
Okay.
In that direction. But in another direction, I just feel like we don't know enough about Han yet. It's like, yeah, we know that he came back to life.
Oh.
We saw him in Tokyo Drift. He's the cool guy.
Maybe he's the guy who helped him along the way.
Yeah, maybe not even necessarily related, but something with his backstory.
Are we getting sucked into the series?
That's what I think.
Okay. And try to remember when we get past our spoiler alert. I want to hear your other idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have any ideas. He can be Jason Statham's dad,
So Helen Mirren's
husband,
okay.
or no, the rock stuff they already explored in Hobbs and Shaw.
He can be Dominic Toretto's son's dad. Like that can be a new twist. Like that's not actually
Son's
Dom's
dad.
son. Like that's like another twist that we got. That's it. That's what I want.
Okay.
The twist is that's not actually his dad.
So finally, 2025 release for Fast 11. Vin Diesel said the week that this movie came out that they might do 3 now as a finale instead of 2.
Oh.
And then the last we heard before this movie started was that there will be no Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He is still not interested in being in the movie.
Yeah.
So, you want to hit me with some actors, my friend?
Who is there? That's new.
Brie Larson, we've talked about her.
Who?
Jason, we've talked about.
Yeah. We could. Is Scott Eastwood new to this series?
Nope.
I can't remember.
Nope.
Okay, but that other guy is Alan Ritchson.
Yes.
Who plays Ames. He is also in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Michael Bay one.
Okay.
No, that's not Michael Bay. But he didn't he?
He produced those 2 movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's in that. He plays Raphael. Apparently, he played him in 2 of those turtle movies.
2 of those turtle movies.
He's in The Hunger Games: Catching Fire.
Really? So we've seen him.
Yeah, I guess. And thank God he is finally the Jack Reacher that we've all been dying for, because he's finally tall. Actually, I'm gonna Google how tall he is.
Ah, yes.
But I do remember that was a marketing point.
Oh yeah, everyone I heard, even them not knowing about thinking about the Tom Cruise of it, is they were like, man,
He's 6'2".
Oh, he's not even that tall.
Well, no, apparently both. I mean, Jack Reacher though is like 6 feet or something.
Oh, okay. I don't know, and I
how tall
also
is Jack Reacher?
could not care less. Because it's so funny to me that anyone would get mad. We've talked about this on a previous episode.
We've talked about it too much.
But it's just hilarious that people would get mad about Tom Cruise.
He's 6'5", Jack Reacher.
Yeah, he's too short. Why aren't they getting mad about this guy?
It's just at least he's not 5'5".
Yeah. It's just so fun. I think Tom is 5'6", right? Can you look up Tom's height?
He's like 5'6", yeah. He's like as tall as me.
Yeah. It's just hilarious that you would dislike a movie because an actor is too short for your preference. There's got to be a word for that. Bigotry? No, that's too strong.
Also, Daniela Melchior plays Isabel, the girl in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
She is in. Oh, she's the rat person. She's rat catcher too.
Okay.
And the Suicide Squad. So we've covered her.
Yeah.
And she's in Guardians 3. She is the girl that when they go to that bio thing.
Uh-huh.
She's the one that's like purple.
Oh. Wow, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Jordan, let's tell them about our experience on the movie. And we're still not in spoiler territory, so you'll get to know what we think.
Okay.
We're sitting there. The movie starts. And as it's going, and I'll we'll let you know when these things started happening. But I'm like, it starts out pretty shaky. Mm-hmm. And I thought, yikes. And a lot of it you could tell was like COVID protocols, where it's like these actors are all in different parts of the world filming these scenes. And it looks pretty bad. The coverage was really substandard. And then
they're using a lot of flashbacks too.
Yes. Yeah, because this is not a spoiler, but the movie starts with like 10 minutes from Fast 5, mm-hmm. to which I was like, that's a lot of time to devote to something we've already seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then
how much of it do you think, like, do you think it was worth it to them that it's like we always got to put Paul Walker's face in here somewhere?
Yeah, I think they were taking every advantage to put him in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it did actually feel nice to see him again.
Yeah.
But then the movie's going along, and then there's the first like big action sequence for the movie. And I was like, that was a pretty cool action sequence. I gotta say.
In the first part of the movie, the action sequence that we've seen before?
No. Then it gets to the first action sequence, the one in Italy.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, this is pretty cool. I kind of like this. And the story's going along. Jason Momoa is doing something wacky, like so over the top. It's crazy. And I'm like, I'm kind of loving that.
Uh-huh.
And I start laughing during certain sequences because they are going so bombastic that it is in the funny, enjoyable mode. Where I was like, this is what we said on episodes where it's like, I wish that they would either drop the crazy bad physics and stupidity and go back to street racing and heisting, or they would go crazier with that stuff and be unapologetic about it.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie was pretty unapologetic with its craziness.
For me, the first act, I understand that they had a lot of setup. So I'm not necessarily sure what I would change. Rita Moreno's in this movie too.
Oh, yeah.
She's Dom's mom.
And she's in the West Side Story movies. And 80 for Brady.
And 80 for Brady, more importantly. I thought that it took forever for this movie to start.
Yeah.
But I know that you got such a huge cast.
Yeah.
So I do think that they did what they did. They laid it all out efficiently.
Right.
It just like at a certain point, it's like, when are we going to start this movie though?
I do feel like you could shave 3 to 5 minutes and it would really pick up the pace at the beginning.
Because I didn't need the like, I feel like they really, which I feel like they kind of do on every movie, but like hinging on like emotional, like remember the emotional importance about all of these things. But by the time we got to Rome, I Am With You, pretty interesting what was happening.
Yeah. And then the movie keeps going.
And then when we got to what happens after Rome?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, when the Rome stuff happened, I guess, I just was sitting there and I thought to myself, I don't hate this.
Yeah.
And
I was starting to think, I kind of like this.
And as the movie was going more and more, I just kept telling myself, I don't hate this.
And I kept thinking to myself, if this is not what Fast and Furious fans want out of these movies that they've been claiming are great, I guess I have no idea what they want out of these movies.
They couldn't have hit the family thing harder in this movie than they probably have in any of them. Besides 7 because of Paul Walker passing.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Like, it was so much like it was just cars and family. It's like they finally understood the 2 basic foundations for this entire
series.
series.
Everyone's been saying that's all it's about, but there's so much of this extra fluff that sucks in these movies. And this time they just said, hey, we're just going to go for it. And here's what you fans have been waiting for forever of our podcast. I thought this movie was awesome. And I liked this movie a lot. I was telling Jordan I would watch this movie again. And I think it's probably at least as good as Fast 5. I might like it a little bit more. And I am so shocked that Fast and Furious fans are not losing their minds at how good it is.
I know, or at least just generally liking it. Like, hey, they ticked all the boxes for me. I'm good.
I don't know how you could watch Fast 6 and think this is a good movie and watch this movie and say it's a bad movie. There's wonky stuff in this.
There is. I
There's
didn't
too
like
much
it.
good stuff.
I didn't like it as much as you liked it. I think
everyone
over time you've
pick
been kind
up
of
your jaw off the floor.
I think over time you're putting on some rose-colored glasses about it. Then that's okay.
Yeah,
I think that's why
it's
people
finally happened.
That's why people like this series so much, is because they're looking through it through a specific lens, and maybe, like, I don't know, maybe you've successfully figured out how to turn off your brain in the time that's passed.
But I think
that's
it was
what
good.
everyone says to do. But I did think this movie was good.
I think it was good.
Yeah.
I am not saying this is like
I know you're not saying that.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt I'm going to watch Mission Impossible and think that this movie's basically garbage compared to that.
Yeah.
But I think it was like,
and they got a short person in that movie.
I think this movie was a genuinely good movie. And it makes the other Fast and Furious movies, 5 and 7 excluded, look like absolute garbage.
This cast in this movie, they've just gotten to become such a like unmanageable cast. And I thought this was like some of the most efficient, like, okay, we spent 5 minutes with them. Now we're going to go spend 5
Yeah.
minutes with them, 6 minutes with them, 5 minutes with them. It was so refreshing, like compared to what I've seen. And
Yeah.
kind of in general with movies, I thought it was very economical storytelling throughout.
Yeah.
Surprised.
I mean, as far as the cons, like I do think the movie relied a lot on you remembering what happened in previous movies. It still worked without it because I almost had no idea of the events they were referencing almost every time.
I forgot that John Cena and Dom were brothers.
Couldn't remember how or what that was. And so
couldn't remember why he got on board with them. But
yeah.
didn't
So
care.
there's stuff like that where it's like that's kind of more my issues with the movies is it's like don't treat this franchise like we need to know lore because it's not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we don't need to know like who found the magical gas pedal. No, it doesn't matter. But the movie had enough other stuff that it outweighed that.
Yeah.
And I think everybody in the cast was pretty locked into this movie.
I thought so too. There was one person, and I do agree with you, but I kind of loved it too, where Han. Yeah. At one point in the movie, you turned to me and you were like, he could not look more bored in
I
this
forgot.
movie.
He did look.
And I do agree with you, but I also love the performance.
Yeah.
Because he is like the cool guy.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we need at least one person to not have any kind of emotion because everyone else is very strong.
I definitely forgot. Yeah, he was like definitely the worst performance.
He was sleepwalking
for me.
through this movie.
It seemed like he was so excited he returned for F9, and then in this movie he was like, I actually didn't want to be in these movies.
Yeah, but also, well, and I don't know, because I don't. Who knows? He's in a lot of Japanese movies that I don't know about.
Yeah,
like currently.
Yeah.
But it is like, but what has he been in?
right. And then I think there might have been actually one or two others. But I think here was the thing. I thought Charlize was good in this movie.
I for me it's beyond, unfortunately, which I admit it's a me problem.
Yeah, sure.
But I can't stand her character. I like the actor.
I just thought she was
character.
she was actually locked in on this movie. And you know what? It helped that she was in a position of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Instead of the other movies, because we complained, especially you, about how like the whole take on her performance is, I'm a villain. Check that out. I'm stone cold. And it's like, we've just seen that so many times. So to see her vulnerable in this movie, it made it work. And then when you juxtapose it with Jason Momoa walking around singing opera and talking about ballet, far too much for any person to talk about ballet, who's killing this many people. I was like, they fixed the villain problem that you and I have been complaining about for every movie. They have not had a good villain in any of these movies.
It was just so smart.
Except 5 and 7.
It was so great because Jason Momoa has become a superstar in his own right. And he's a big guy. So, like, he's become an action star in his own right. No, he's not as big as The Rock or Vin, and they'll make sure he's not. But it's like, in this movie, he didn't care. He doesn't. It's like it was like he was taking a stance almost and making a statement.
Yeah.
That he doesn't want to be as big as them, and
Sure.
to be known as that guy.
Yeah.
And I lapped it up and asked for seconds, and I'm getting it when they give me a second movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So should we get into spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So folks, you did it. You beat us into submission, and I like this movie. Now, I think you should see it. All right, now let's go spoilers.
Spoiler alert! 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 Spoiler alert!
Okay, so I'm going straight hard into spoilers because I have my note here and I don't want to forget this information. First of all, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson returned, which was a surprise. I had heard it before I saw the movie, but it was like the same day I saw the movie.
You spoiled it for me right before it happened.
Yeah, were you upset?
No, I don't care.
Okay. And I just want to point out two things that I think are going to happen in the very next movie before I forget to say them. First of all, the next movie is going to open with Gal Gadot surviving the plane crash and explaining all of that. So that's how it will open. And then in this movie, Charlie,
Because this movie ended with us seeing her. I don't know if you said that.
I didn't.
Okay.
But we're in spoilers, folks. Don't
Yeah.
get mad. And then in this movie, Charlize Theron shows up in a DeLorean, which of course is the car that travels in time in Back to the Future. Universal owns Back to the Future. And in this movie, it ends with Dom and his son presumably dying and cutting to credits. And
the crew died,
And the crew.
presumably. In a plane crash.
So I am genuinely saying that the next movie is going to have Michelle Rodriguez, Charlize, and Gal Gadot trying to turn back time, and they will have to use the DeLorean in order to do it. And they're going to basically, Charlize will be like, well, there was this thing I was working on, and they're going to try it out, and there was going to be an engineer there. I'm getting really specific here, folks. There's going to be an engineer, and he's going to say, they're going to come up, and he's like, it's not ready and stuff, and it will be Christopher Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get into...
Christopher Lloyd as Doc?
No, not as Doc.
Okay.
I think they'll just skirt it, so it'll be like, that's so funny and fun, but they don't want to... They can't step on it. Bob Gale won't let them.
That's true.
But then what's going to happen, they're going to get in the car, and there's going to be like an assistive, like Siri type thing.
Uh-huh.
That
A
helps
Jarvis?
guide them through it. Yes, and that will be voiced by Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
And I am absolutely 100% convinced that will happen in the next movie. I have no doubt in my mind.
What reason would you have to think that wouldn't happen? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is the kind of movie that they set up in this one.
Yeah, and I really think time travel is the only way they can get out of the corner they painted themselves in. Because what are they going to do? Have Dominic like jump
Punch
in the
the
air?
water?
Yeah. Which hey,
There was a small part of me that, because I couldn't tell if the movie was ending or not quite yet. But like I thought, like, is he gonna like fly up in the air like a superhero? Because I think he might.
Yeah. Yeah, and oh man, at the end of the movie when he's at the dam, I think I said it to you. If not, I was saying it in my head. I said, "Go over the edge. Go over the edge.
No, you said that
drive
to
over
me.
the edge." Like before he even showed up, I just saw the dam and I'm like, he better drive down that thing. See, this is why I liked it. The movie did those things.
I have a physics question or a chemistry question.
Oh yeah,
about
I'm a
that.
professional at that.
Oh, last I checked. Well, maybe I'll just save it for when we get there.
Okay, so the movie begins, and it's like 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it's showing the Fast Five events, and it's including Jason Momoa in them. He's the son of
The bad guy from the fifth movie.
yeah,
And as we know from the fifth movie, that guy gets killed, and
Right.
bad guys lose. Jason Momoa was there, and he almost died, or he died for like 2 minutes or something.
yeah,
So that day he lost his family.
exactly.
So ever since then, his plan has been to take down Dom's family,
Yeah,
not kill him. According to his dad said, "Don't death is too merciful. Make him suffer."
yeah.
That's the plan.
And you know what? I kind of loved as far as Momoa, beyond everything he did in the movie, is I do like this idea. There's that moment in the movie where he goes, I died for 2 minutes, and you know what I saw? And he said, nothing. And so his whole motivation, like part of it is he's like, there is no afterlife. Nothing happened when I died. So
Mhm.
guess what? I am going to like just make you suffer and cause chaos because I don't care about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a cool touch.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he'll get nominated because people will mistake this for a Joker performance?
It might be possible. But this movie it is funny. I don't know Vin Diesel. I don't know if he's a man of faith or not. But this movie posits...
The series has been about faith. This isn't the
Yeah.
only movie that's done that.
Really? Okay, I don't remember.
No, because that necklace thing has been like the symbol of, quite literally, it's a cross.
Yeah.
But that's not the first time they've done it. This might be the strongest they've hit it,
Yeah.
but this is not a first. It's not new territory they're working on.
Okay, because here's the thing, folks. This man who doesn't believe in the afterlife, he is the Antichrist to Dominic because he is trying to kill him. And oh my gosh, Dominic has to get killed in this movie, and then he will rise again in the next one. Oh no.
So it is time travel.
Yeah,
Like
but
that's how he's resurrected.
he's like a Christ figure, I think is the
I mean, throughout this movie, well, not throughout, but by the end of this movie, Dante, Jason Momoa's character,
Yeah.
is like, you know, there are two ways to become a saint, Dom. You either perform a miracle, or you die a martyr.
Yeah.
And that's like right when the movie ends.
Oh yeah.
So they're really looking at him as a religious figure.
It is kind of awesome, but it's
so
dumb. But he literally has to save the Pope and the Vatican from getting blown up. And so that part is like he is literally like a symbol of faith. He's like an angel in a dark world. And he's saving everyone.
Oy vey.
But one of the things I love about this movie, because it just feels such a I like in this movie, he's talking to his son when he's teaching him how to drift at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
And he's basically like, "There's a problem with kids today. They don't listen. Nobody listens anymore." And I know that's more of a Sylvester, but it's the best I can do. And it's just one of those funny things when he said nobody listens anymore. I just thought, like, this is, like, why he wanted to make this movie. Like, the theme that he wanted to hit is that you need to listen, which the movie does not play on that theme at all. Not even a little bit.
True.
But late at the end of the movie, he, like, says it again. And then that, like, his son is able to, like, jump into the car. And you're like, those things are not connected. Like, but it's just hilarious that it's like, this is clearly, like, a dad, which I'm sure he is by now, working on a screenplay, being like, man, I really want my kids to learn a lesson from this movie. It's like, it's not really.
They have
in
to
the
watch
movie.
this movie when they're grounded.
They're like, Dad, we don't want to watch anything with cars. This movie posits a world where Dominic has this kid, and all they do is they drift. He teaches them how to drift. They build a car together. He is interested in RC cars. All of his toys are cars. Everything in his life is cars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think this is another reason that I like this movie, because all this stuff is what usually bogs the movie down. But at this point, it feels like self-parody. Like the wheel has.
This movie is self-aware.
It is, because there's a character
for the first time. It feels self-aware.
Yeah, there's a character named Jack Reacher. And he.
Well, let's wait till we get there.
Okay.
We gotta get into the movie.
All right.
I do like how they do the locations in this movie. The giant stamp of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's nice. Because
It is.
sometimes it's just there's so many locations in the series, movie to movie. This movie is no exception. I liked it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's teaching his son how to drift. And then they go back home and they're having a family barbecue. Everyone's there, including Rita Moreno, his mom, and reintroduced to everyone. Everyone's drinking Corona, of course.
Yep.
The food did look good.
It did.
I did want it.
He did mention how she makes like a very specific dish, and all I could see was fried chicken and
corn. There's always corn
and hamburgers, and I was like, huh. I don't think she made that dish that he was talking about.
I don't know. Is and this I couldn't remember. Is Jordana Dom's sister? Or not Jordana, what's her name? That's the actress's name.
Yeah.
That is his
that's
sister.
Dom's sister, yeah.
So John Cena's her sister. Her brother.
Brother, yeah. I guess.
I like actually had to remind myself that Paul Walker wasn't her brother.
Yeah.
It's a mess. Which would make Rita Moreno her mom.
Yes. And John Cena's mom, I guess?
Well, I don't know. They might not be full blood.
Yeah. And I know that some of you are running to your phone right now to tell us. I don't care.
Oh, I don't care.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'll look it up before Fast 11. No, I won't. I'll forget then too.
But yeah, everyone's here, and then they're playing with an RC car, and Mike and I looked at each other and raised our eyebrows really high. You'll understand why we were really excited about that far, far down the road.
Yes. But if I remember correctly, there is a future episode that we have where we talk about an RC car chase. And in the episode, I said, if Fast and Furious did this in a movie, I would automatically like that movie.
And look where we are, people.
And look where we effing are. It worked. All you needed was RC cars.
And it wasn't in the movie very much.
No, they should have done
there was going to be more.
They should have done more.
They should have done more, especially because of that movie that I won't mention because I don't want to spoil previous series.
But hey, the tools are there. Maybe they need to do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh man.
So they're talking about they're setting up the second act, more or less, or
the movie,
I guess. Well, it's just this. It's all a MacGuffin, but they're all going to go do a job in Rome. Roman is leading it. It sounds like the people that are going are Ludacris, Roman, the British girl.
Yeah. She's still awful for me.
Oh, I can't stand that character either. She was less bad in this movie, though, I will say. So it's those three are going. Is anyone else going?
I don't think so.
I think it's and Han. Han is with them too.
Yes. So Rome's like becoming a leader. He's running the crew this time.
So I don't I can't remember if they were going to Rome to do something good, to do something bad. So I think they're good guys now, right? So
yeah,
the agency gives them jobs to do.
The agency, they thought it was the agency.
That's right.
Told them to steal this computer chip. Now Dante set it all up, and the agency had no idea. Scott Eastwood shows up, and he's like, "Remember my dad?"
Who looks so much like his dad.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Mr.
Nobody's his dad.
No.
So Brie Larson's his sister?
No.
Oh gosh.
No, I said remember my dad because of Clint Eastwood.
Oh, okay.
Because he is
looking so much like his dad.
He looks so much like his dad, and he's so like uncharismatic. He's like the uncharismatic Clint Eastwood that he's hard for me to watch.
He has inherited the countless lines on his forehead.
Yeah.
That his dad, Clint Eastwood's always had he always looks weather worn.
Yeah.
Whether or not he is or was.
I see what you did there. You said whether or not.
Oh, okay. And it's like, oh my gosh, his son inherited that. That's crazy.
But like Wyatt Russell, son of Kurt Russell, he looks so much like Kurt Russell, but he's so good. He's like forging his own path, and you can watch him. Yeah. Scott Eastwood looks so much like his dad, and he's not very good.
Well, we don't watch him in anything else. Like, I think he's in stuff we wouldn't like.
He's just not. He reminds you too much of Clint Eastwood that it's like, I just would rather watch a Clint Eastwood movie. That's how I feel about him.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion in terms of this movie.
He's like, I don't really have too much of a Nepo baby problem, but he's one where I'm like, you could definitely axe his career and get in someone more talented.
Wasn't he like with Taylor Swift at some point?
Probably.
Who cares? So they're going to Rome.
Yeah. And
John Cena shows up.
He does?
At the end of this barbecue scene.
He does.
And they're all saying brother and everything, and I couldn't I thought it was just an endearing.
Yeah.
And then it took me I had to ask Micah so far into the movie, so they are brothers?
And by then I remembered.
Yeah. Which makes the kid, that's his uncle, the kid's uncle.
Yeah.
Because he does call him an uncle, but again, I thought that was just endearing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because we're all family.
I think a smart thing they did in this movie was they let John Cena do what he's good at, which is humor and charisma and charm, instead of the other movies where he's supposed to be really stone cold and a boring villain, just like they keep on doing in these movies. Mm-hmm. He was funny and fun, and I
really liked him in the kid's storyline. It was really good.
I did too.
Okay, but so that night, there's some Michelle Rodriguez gives him the cross, and I think talks to him about having faith at that time because he's
all of this,
so worried about life.
Like the way it's shot and stuff, I'm like, we're in for a bad movie. Is what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then someone shows up on their front doorstep, getting out of a DeLorean. And
I immediately thought of Back to the Future and thought you were making a joke.
No, for real.
Yes.
Charlize Theron gets out of a DeLorean. She is all banged up.
Yeah.
And convinces them to let her in because she's got a story to tell and they're in danger.
Yeah. Enemy of my enemy situation.
Yeah. To which she goes on to recount what just happened to her.
Yeah.
That involves Jason Momoa.
And so then she's explaining the story. Jason comes in, and this is when I was kind of like, crap. They did something really clever in this scene, and it made me think oh no, am I gonna like this?
I think they could remove this scene. I think in terms of because this was the moment. This was the point.
Cool.
Well, no, in terms of his character, anything he's like, I'm fine with him.
Yeah.
But like in terms of this was the moment in the movie, or pretty early on, where I'm like, the movie hasn't even started yet.
Sure.
We've gone through so much stuff, and now we have to go through like what felt like a 10-minute flashback.
Yeah.
So that's my only issue. It just really like, I think, put a bump in the road too early in the movie.
You could maybe just
make it shorter,
or don't have it be a flashback. Just show that scene and then show the barbecue and then show her showing up.
Yeah, I think.
Just put it in a different spot.
Yeah, I think so too. Just edit it differently.
But what I thought was clever that I have not seen in an action movie before, and I thought, crap, if anything, they get points for this. He shows up, and all the guys are like gonna kill him. And she's like, "You're against my crew. I have like 20 guys in here. What are you gonna do about it?" And he, very fun and charismatic and strange, is like, "That's fine, but they're definitely not going to kill me because you," points to someone, and he's like, "Your wife, Carla, I think she's doing okay, but she might not."
Yeah.
And then he starts pointing to everyone and being like, "Oh, your son Winston, he could really be in trouble if you shoot me."
And
I
then
was like,
everyone's phone lights up, and they're all getting a live footage of all of their families have been kidnapped.
yeah,
And then I thought this was a wonderful touch.
yeah.
He takes out these knives and kills this guy right behind him. And he's like, he's just the only one who didn't have anyone for me to kidnap.
That's smart.
Oh, man, that was good. That was good touch.
And I was like, you know what? That is, if anything, I thought that is something I will have to just say they did really well because that was really a clever way to show us a new twist on a scene we've seen a million times.
Yep.
And so now she's screwed. She has to fight her way against her own guys who he's like, kill her.
Yeah.
She does.
He takes
she gets
two
away.
of her computer dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she fights her way out. The elevator scene was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool action scene. I mean, it was all a cool action scene. But
which
that
Sean
was especially good.
Pointed out. He was like, because this is in the same realm, he's like that maybe there's a little homage to Speed there because there's that huge elevator sequence in Speed, and I'm like, yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah. It was good. That's she came to warn them of it.
Yeah.
And I thought she was going to die right after she told her story. And I was looking forward to it because we could just finally get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
In this series, she doesn't die. It's fine. Because they give her stuff to do.
Yeah.
But they know that they are in danger now. And what happens after that? Do we go to Rome?
Go to Rome.
Do they find out in the scene that Rome has been sabotaged?
So Diesel and Rodriguez are there, and they're like, "Oh, well, Rome is compromised. We got to warn them."
Yes.
But their signals are jammed. They can't get a hold of the crew.
Yeah, so they have to go to Rome.
Yeah.
And the son is left with Jordana. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Mia.
So Mia and Little B are at home. Now, I do want to point out that the whole movie, they kept calling him B and Little B, and I was like, I don't know what this character's name is. Is his name B? And he's named Brian, which I didn't realize.
Oh, yeah. I didn't remember either.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's too many characters to remember things.
Yeah.
I mean, we forgot Mia, for example.
Yeah.
One of the characters has been in the all movies,
yes.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's at the house, and while this is happening... So the Rome thing happens first because the agency's responding to that. So let's talk about Rome.
As we said, Dante set up the Rome situation.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to get control of this big truck and control it. They do. It's all going according to plan, but they discover what is in the back of the truck is not a bunch of DVD players, but
the neutron
a
bomb.
I actually don't remember what was supposed to be in the truck, but
it was like a computer chip or something like that.
Big truck for a little chip.
Yeah.
But it was a giant ball.
Yeah.
And
so it's...
Oh, and then he starts controlling the car. So they're like stuck in the truck.
Yeah. Which, again, remote control car. A lot of remote control big cars in this.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I'm pro that.
So Letty is on a motorcycle, some fun motorcycle stuff.
When she jumps over the thing that falls, that was cool.
That was cool.
And that was practical. You could tell that was like a
stunt
legit
person
stunt.
did that. She's chasing Momoa.
Yeah, Momoa.
Through the city through the streets of Rome.
The city proper, as we like to call
City
it.
proper.
We've been to Rome. We know a little bit about it. Didn't
Been
recognize
to
a
those
single
Spanish
thing.
You didn't recognize the Spanish Steps?
No.
We were there. Where the ball went down?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I recognize them.
I recognize a lot. But
It wasn't like, because the John Wick 4 was like, that was
well, we had just been to
6
France.
months after we had been to France.
Yeah.
And it's been 5.5 years since we were in Italy. So.
But they still put a lot of landmarks in this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're shooting there, which is cool.
There was this one shot where it was like a drone shot. And it's like it started going into the Roman Forum and then it cut.
Uh-huh.
And I was like genuinely curious how much of that was a zoom, because I doubt they would allow anything to come over that.
Yeah.
But I was curious.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Vin is chasing the people in the truck to try. Oh, because the bomb gets out of the truck. It starts rolling through the streets. He's trying to stop the bomb.
Yeah.
All of it's pretty good. Pretty good action.
This is when I was like, the movie's winning me over.
This is also when I realize, not that I needed to, but it's like, wow, I've never seen one of these movies in theaters. This is effing loud, this movie.
Yes. And it is, I do have to admit, our audience, many have said this, that like part of the fun of these movies is seeing them in theaters. And it is true. This is way better than watching it at home.
It goes vroom vroom.
It wasn't even like a sold out theater or anything. So
no, it was a pretty great showing.
Oh, it was a great showing. But like, it wasn't the audience. It was just the big screen and the loud noises were helpful.
Yeah.
And so this ball's going through and Vin has to do like impossible stunt work in order to do it. Stunts as in like his character is doing the most impossible things ever. And this is when I'm like, okay, they're actually like doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, this is bombastic. It's crazy, but they're not holding back is how I felt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Jason Momoa is over here talking about ballet and being like, ooh, let me do this. Boobada-baba-da-bee. Oh, check this out. And I'm kind of like, okay, this is kind of cool too. He's having so much fun.
And the ball is going towards the Vatican.
Yeah. And this is where the allegory comes into play.
Yeah. So he is literally saving the Vatican / the Pope / Catholicism.
Yeah.
He saved a country that day.
It is funny that Jason Momoa is like, you just saved the Vatican. Who does that?
Yeah.
Like he's like, why would you save this place?
Yeah.
It's because he's a man of no faith.
Oh yeah, he's such a textbook nihilist.
Yeah, so
he just wants to watch the world burn, or how Michael Caine says, "Some men just want to watch the world burn."
Yeah. We saw a child playing with a ruby. It was the ruby that was stolen. Remember that whole thing?
That's when he says that.
Yeah. But I didn't know.
I've seen that movie too.
Yeah, okay, we've covered it. So all of this stuff is pretty great. He's able to stop it by like jumping off of a bridge and like hitting a crane to prevent the ball from
that
hitting.
Was nuts.
And it makes the ball go into the water and explode. And then he pretty much out races it, even though it's ripping other cars apart.
Uh-huh.
He's able to drive faster than the explosion, even though the other cars are getting ripped apart.
This is something that I thought of while watching this movie.
Yeah.
I think he's in like a Dodge Charger or something, but like a souped up one.
Yeah.
It's like it's an American car.
Yeah.
From my experience being in other countries, which has only been European countries, there are all car brands are different.
Yeah.
And all the other countries I've been to, I am sure that they're a Toyota equivalent. All of these things, but it's all owned by the same company, but they have different names, which I don't really understand. It's pretty fascinating. I should look it up sometime. So how does he get a Dodge Charger over there?
I mean, agency.
Okay.
That's like your catch-all for anything in this movie. Is the agency did it.
It was just a curious thought, because I'm curious, George.
Yeah, because that's his. I mean, we've actually seen in the franchise many times that they transport those cars around in cargo planes.
True.
So they just flew them over there with it.
Yeah.
So, not such an interesting question now, is it, Jordan?
I guess it's not.
I'm totally joking.
I don't mean that that's not a criticism. I just was like,
I know.
Curious.
I was kidding. I was just joking.
Okay.
I was joshing. So they get through this scene.
So because of this happening, they're now all on like number one on FBI's.
Excommunicado.
They're all number one on the FBI's most wanted list.
Yeah.
Letty is arrested,
Yeah.
and she is taken to a sci-fi prison.
Yeah. Now, if there's a complaint as far as like the story, I think it's very dumb that they're immediately like, oh yeah, they're bad now. Like, it's just like you have too much information and you have too much to assume that these guys are bad guys at this point.
But Micah, they come from a bad past. Who's to say that you can trust them 100% and that they wouldn't go back to their bad ways at any point? They probably even said that in the movie. I think they said that when that guy was talking.
I don't mind it. It's just a little like people complaining about this movie, saying it's very silly. It's like, that's a point I'll give you. That's definitely like a silly thing to happen in this movie, where they've like saved the world from like nuclear warheads and stuff. You know,
I don't mind it. I don't mind it in this movie.
I'm not saying I mind it. Just pointing it out. I know this is your favorite movie of the last decade, but
yeah, I've said as such.
Yeah. So, okay, go ahead.
So Letty is arrested. Ludacris, Roman, and is her name Ramsey?
Maybe.
They like go there with Han. Go. I'm forgetting he's in the movie. That's how little he wants to be in the movie. They go in hiding in their separate ways, trying to figure out a way. They have a rendezvous point. Where does Dom go?
Dom goes to. Isn't this when he goes to like the street race area? Because they discover that Dante's in Rio de Janeiro.
So that he knows he needs to go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe take them one at a time here.
Let's just start with Michelle because she's easy. Well, no. Let's cut to... No. Let's cut back to L.A.
Okay.
Where the agency storms the house.
The agency storms the house because they're wanted.
Yeah.
And then John Cena breaks in. Kind of a good action scene again. He punches a guy through the floor into the next story.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I want out of these movies. Again.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to take little B, who I've just learned is Brian, and we're going to go meet up with your dad.
Yeah.
And so they take him off. He's going to go on a road adventure.
Yeah.
Maybe, like this isn't the most essential part of the movie, but it helped because like the actor being little B, certainly no Stranger Things actor.
I thought he was cute though.
He was fine. Yeah. It's just funny because on this podcast, a lot of times you've been like, we live in this great age where like the children actors are so good. And I was like, well, we got an old school child actor here. But like all the fun stuff with John Cena, I'm like, yeah, this is good stuff. And it hits the family notes harder that I don't think they've actually been hitting that hard in other movies. And I'll see how much I talk about it now. But there is a big problem with this franchise, which we talked about with Furious 7, even though that's the best one, that like Statham, Vin Diesel, and The Rock all have like contracts about like how many times they can get hit, and they can't like...
Statham even has one?
Yeah. It's all three of those guys in the same movie.
Jeez, I don't remember that.
Yeah, so they're like counting punches and stuff like that, and I think that there's something about like, like The Rock can't be seen like losing a fight in a movie.
I thought that was Vin too.
And I think it's Vin as well.
Because that was the whole thing with, whatever movie it was, I don't think by the fifth movie they were both, the fifth movie felt weird though, right? Because they were fighting in the fifth movie and like neither of, it was a draw. It was like a clear draw.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was more in 7 actually.
Oh, okay, probably 7 then.
Or maybe even, actually it might have been 8 when it really looked like it was like too much.
Were they fighting each other in 8?
Yeah, I think they did do some fighting.
Because maybe that's the fight I'm thinking of, where it's like a clear draw.
Yeah. And so they have these things, and I think one of the actual issues with these movies is that the main character of this movie is invulnerable.
Yeah.
And yet he is not a superhero. He's not Superman.
He's merely a man.
He is a man, but
with diesel running through his veins.
Yes, but he cannot take damage. He does not suffer a scratch in this movie. Literally no scratch. And I don't know when the last time he did have a scratch in this franchise. And I think that's a huge problem.
Uh-huh.
It's not like great counterexample, Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, Fallout. in the movie, he is like reckoning with like, I don't know how much longer I can do it, is like what Ethan Hunt is doing.
Yeah.
And so he's out of breath sometimes. He's still being cool. He's still awesome. We still love him, but he's breaking his ankle jumping across the building. Stuff like that, which actually makes the movie way better.
Oh, of course.
And I will say, okay, I think this movie kind of fixes it a little bit because they hit the son stuff so hard in this movie and they spend so much time with the son that it does make it's like Vin does have a vulnerability and it's his son.
Yes.
And it is his family, which they've been talking about for a while. And this is why at the very end of the movie, and now I'm skipping way ahead, but just to finish my point here. At the very end of the movie, we're on this freeway chase, and I'm like, the movie seems like it's wrapping up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the only way for them to make a 2-part movie and for this to make sense, they have to kill a character in this movie. And John Cena's driving around, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be John Cena, because if they don't kill him when we start the next movie, they're going to be like, hey, so, yeah, we're still chasing Dante, the guy who's getting revenge from his dad from Fast 5. And there's kind of not really any personal stakes.
It's like Tom and Jerry at that point.
Yeah.
But less fun.
Yeah. And even though in this movie it's like, well, he's doing stuff that's very personal. He kidnapped his son and stuff, but it's like he needs that moment in the next movie where he's like, you killed my brother, and gets him.
And almost killed my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe killed me and my son, and then we time traveled and we're back.
Well, that too. The thing with this series, though, is I would say the chances are higher than 50% that John Cena didn't even die.
Yeah, and I think funny enough, this is, and
I would say it's like 80%, right? The only person they can't bring back is Paul Walker, because he actually died.
Yeah.
Because in this movie, at the end, Gal's back.
Right.
And Han came back in the last movie. And it was very clear that he died. And it was very clear that she died.
Yeah.
And it was part of the reasons why it was clear is because there were emotional stakes.
Yeah.
But they're back.
Yeah, I do think, and I'll say this on record. You can, stenographer, pull out your stenograph. I do think for the next movie to work, I think it kind of hinges on John Cena being dead.
I agree with you. I'm just saying,
emotionally,
based on the history of this franchise,
he probably won't be.
But it's even like, yeah, this is a 2-part finale. Who knows if that's even true?
Right.
Vin's throwing out the number 3 now. Who knows if that's even true? It could be 10 more movies.
Right. I do think though that it reminds me of like Black Widow in Infinity War, where it's like if in Endgame she came back and she was fine, it really would like lessen the impact of both of those movies emotionally.
Yeah.
And kind of like they wouldn't work in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so I do think that John Cena would be the heart of the next movie. And if they do resurrect him, it'll be a really big mistake.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of like beside the point.
I don't think he's coming back either. I'm just saying, if he does, let's not be too surprised about it.
Yeah. If they do time travel, though, maybe he will be back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be so awesome if they just went full time travel in the next movie, and it was like they kind of loosely adapted Back to the Future too, and it's like they go to a future that's all dystopian and like messed up, and they have to like keep jumping back in time and stuff like that. I don't know if the audience could take that, even the fast audience.
Yeah. People
still are kind of like they still didn't like that they went to space, which I think that wasn't the problem with F9, was not them going to space. It was everything else in that stupid movie.
It was going to happen sooner or later.
I know. They do need like an action sequence in space, though.
Yeah.
They still need that. Okay, so where are we at in this movie?
So, Little Bees with John Cena.
Yep.
And then the other crew, Han and etc., they need to get to a rendezvous point, but I know I'm skipping around and stuff, but they have no money anymore because Dante hacked into all of their accounts and stole all of their money to hire mercenaries for himself.
Yeah.
I like that he like used the money.
Right. Yeah.
The one scene when it cut to him talking to those 2 computer nerds and they're dead was like,
That was
gnarly, man.
I like that scene. Yeah.
It was funny, but it was, oh man, it was gnarly.
It was a little
It was freaky.
It showed that he is truly like a psychopath.
Yeah.
He's not just another like racer.
No.
Like car racer. It's like, oh, this is a bad dude.
Yeah.
And I liked that scene a lot. I thought it was a lot of interesting character development for him.
I thought so too. But Roman always keeps money literally strapped to him.
Yeah.
Like probably millions of dollars.
Uh-huh.
So they're going to be fine. So they go to some like computer cafe.
Yeah.
No, they get to London somehow. Oh, through like a shipping container.
Yeah.
Filled with aftershave.
Now,
so
I saw someone else say this, and thinking back on the movie, I definitely agree that this movie, the jokes in this movie they're not super good jokes. They never really are.
Yeah.
But they're also like not given enough room to breathe.
Oh, they're too fast.
They're just kind of like
the timing's off.
The timing is off, and it's just kind of like, okay. So another silly point knock against the movie. I'll provide that.
There are so many freaking cuts in this movie. It is you get I was getting whiplash in this movie.
I mean, you're having scheduling conflicts. You got COVID, and it shows in this movie.
Yes, it does.
I do think though, like almost on every level, this movie is better than almost all the rest of them. Though I'm kind of dumbfounded that
the rest of them, all the rest of the Fast and Furious movies,
except 5 and 7.
Okay.
That goes without saying. Okay,
yeah.
But I'm just dumbfounded that the general audience is not fully embracing and being like, "Holy cow! Like I love Fast and Furious. This rocks." It's crazy.
I don't know, man.
It's truly just baffling to me. I do not understand this franchise.
Yeah.
Because once again, we're not following the popular opinion.
I don't know.
Although I'll be real surprised if the people who like it that listen to our podcast don't like this movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
They go to a computer cafe in London. We get a cameo from Pete Davidson. You were underwhelmed by it. But I also think you're not a Pete Davidson fan.
I think I'm comfortable saying I don't like Pete Davidson.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. It was funny.
I mean, a use of a cameo, not a great use of a cameo for sure.
Why would you say that?
I guess I just don't, because it's a jokey thing, right? That he's in it.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't get like the joke of it.
I guess for me, I was waiting to see what the cameo would be because it's such a stacked cast. Why wouldn't they have one?
Yeah.
So we get to it finally, and it is Pete Davidson, and I don't know. I thought it was a cameo, but it still moved the story forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I just don't know why.
I don't think he's the funniest person in the world either.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a problem with him.
I get, yeah.
I thought it was funny when they...
Maybe I truly just don't like him, and that's the problem.
I don't love the Ludacris and Roman banter.
Yeah.
It gets to a point for me where it's like, we're now halfway through the movie and you guys are still fighting. Just kiss already. It's a little annoying. So I think he provided some nice relief in that scene for me.
Sure.
And when they were fighting... I thought that it was that one line was funny when they hit the copier, and he's like, "You guys hit the copier so hard, it's working again."
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I thought that was funny.
And it was funny when he said you guys are causing dozens of dollars in damage.
That was very funny too.
Funny.
I thought that we were going to get a funnier tripping scene. Unfortunately, that was a waste.
This is actually my biggest complaint with the movie. And can I take the floor from you here?
Yeah.
Can I put out the soapbox and step on it? One of my favorite things in movies is when someone takes drugs and they have a tripping scene. It's a miracle and wild that I have, one, not taken drugs, but two, that I have not seen the Las Vegas movie with Johnny Depp and what's his name?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
With Benicio.
Because that's like the ultimate one. I'll watch it soon, I guess.
It was kind of unwatchable. Who made that movie again?
I don't remember.
Look it up.
But this movie, Han is like, "Hey, what's in these muffins?" And he goes, "Those are fun muffins." He takes a bite and it looks at the muffins.
Oh, it's a Terry Gilliam movie.
Ah.
Go ahead.
And the world starts like swirling a little bit, and he goes kind of like, "Whoa."
No, but he doesn't because he's still sleeping through this movie. He basically just furrows his brow and is like, "Huh."
And then he puts the rest of the muffin that he grabbed back, like the piece. And it's as if he willed the drugs to not work anymore. And that was just a huge missed opportunity.
I agree. It was a big bummer.
It's like
I know he's the
don't
only one
include that
who
scene.
ate from it. I know that. So
Yeah.
it's like he would be the only person to experience it, but they missed a huge opportunity.
And I think oddly enough, in one of the weirdest and silliest franchises to ever exist, it probably would have been too silly for this movie. But they should have just not had anything about the muffins and just cut that.
But I think because it's Pete Davidson's there, you have to have tripping muffins, like
I guess
acid
yeah.
muffins or something. That's the only thing I could think of.
But yeah, that was a big bummer.
Because that is the thing about Pete Davidson, I think, where he doesn't. I don't think he acts. I think he's just Pete Davidson and everything.
Yeah.
The King of Staten Island's a good movie. I liked that movie.
He's very good in that movie.
That is a movie about his life.
Yeah.
And then there's that show coming out, and from what I've seen, it's just the King of Staten Island turned into a show. So he's good at what he's doing when he just gets to like live his life.
Yeah.
And that extends even to this cameo where he's just Pete Davidson.
Right.
But we're probably spending already too much time on it. But that scene happens. They get a computer. And then meanwhile, we did skip over this. So we get Brie Larson's character. She's meeting with Jack Reacher.
Yes.
In the silliest room ever.
Yeah, you turned to me, and this is when I was like, I assumed that you were hating the movie when you said this to me. I was surprised.
I think at this point I was still wanting to hate it. But I did like the Rome scene.
I mean, I was still on the fence too, but I was kind of like, I think I'm digging this. And then you said,
well, but then when he went on his monologue, that was fine. That was all very cool because I turned to you and I was like, "We're the problem."
Yeah.
But
which we need to discuss and explain to the audience.
But like I'm torn between if I like this or not. This style that they're going for, where this scene that they're in, it's like they're in Magneto's. What room is that called?
Cerebro.
It's like they're in a
Professor
spherical.
X's.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
A spherical mind palace with floating TV screens around them.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is so COVID more than anything is why that set looks like that. But then also Michelle Rodriguez, the prison that she's in is mind-bogglingly science fiction.
I know,
to the point where it's like I don't know how much like the only way you can push this further in sci-fi is she is imprisoned by aliens.
Right.
That was bananas to me, and I can't tell if I hated it or not.
I think what's weird. I mean, it's so dumb, but it's. I guess they are continuing to build the world because in Hobbs and Shaw, that movie was kind of a science fiction movie.
Was it?
Remember, he has like a computer in him, Idris Elba, and he's able to use that to be like a superhuman. Now, if that movie is a science fiction movie, it may be the worst science fiction movie ever made.
Well, that technically would be science fiction, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that movie is. Thinking about it right now, my blood is starting to boil.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that movie so much. I just always have to remind people how much I hate it. Yeah, so they are kind of like this is less science fiction than that movie. But that movie didn't feel like it was connected to Fast and Furious except for the main characters. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of someone had a spec script or something, and they just threw the label on it, is how it felt.
Yeah.
So, having said all of that, yes, they're in this like sci-fi room. There's like board members that vote on stuff in shadows.
I had no idea what was going on with that at all. But what's happening is Brie Larson is Mr. Nobody's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Jack Reacher is like the antagonist of the agency.
Yeah.
He's like he's like hired to hunt down these people.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to explain the entire franchise.
He does. He basically says like, oh, maybe they turned. They've done it before. And he's like, what are you expecting, a family barbecue at the end of this whole thing? And he's just saying he is literally saying every complaint you and I have ever had about the movies.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
and so I said, we're the villain.
We're the villains of this franchise. And what's funny is I actually really liked him in the movie, and I liked the character, and I dug it. I know you disagree with me on that.
Yeah, I don't care. I didn't I couldn't get over how big he was.
He was like the perfect amount of straight-laced for me that
Okay.
the other movies have not nailed.
Okay.
Because he just had a vibe. I enjoyed his presence. And I think it helped that he was like, I think it did help that his whole thing was like, yeah, I don't like these movies. I really don't like these movies, and I'm tired of these people. And
Yeah.
and I think that
Motives were great. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for meta commentary
Yeah.
on franchises and movies. So of course I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And there's something else in this movie too, which is kind of like in Top Gun Maverick, where like there is literally a guy who is using remote controls to do everything that like humans should be doing, which is driving cars and doing all of this stuff. So there's also like this anti-technology stance the movie's sort of taking if you give it way too much credit. But it's like, yeah, I kind of like that, where it's like movies have become like studio products, and there's just a guy with remote control creating these movies, and Vin Diesel's like, I'm the only artist left. I'm the only one who knows how to save the Vatican and drift.
Yeah.
And kids, they just don't listen anymore. So, yeah. Little Miss Nobody. I think they actually call her that in this movie at one point. She has to track down Dom, finds him at a bar. And she's gonna
To like warn him of what's coming.
Yeah, she helps him find Dante. Then they go to Rio
then
de Janeiro to find him.
he needs her to go free Letty.
Yeah,
Gives her the cross necklace and says you got to have faith.
Yeah. George and Michael comes onto the screen. Very poorly de-aged and I don't know if
she wasn't very respectful,
familial
to be honest.
estate signed off on that.
So let's just do that part.
But that butt and those jeans can't quit.
So Brie Larson does go to this science fiction prison.
I know.
And Letty is literally like surrounded by cubes laying down on a stone slab. It's probably made from some chemistry thing that's not even like native to our Earth.
Yeah.
And
unobtainium. This is when the Avatar world collides.
Brie Larson gives her the cross necklace and is like, I'm here to help you. And then she stabs her and leaves. But the whole point is she injures her, so she has to be in the medical bay, where they are suturing her up, a la science fiction. And
it reminded me. I thought of Star Wars. I was like, this is like the Bantha tank, or not the. Yeah, I think it's called the Bantha. No, it's not called that, but the Bacta tank that like Luke is in after he gets attacked by the Wampa in Empire Strikes Back. I'm like, I think that robot's about to walk out and be like, "Hello, sir."
Yeah, but she is here with Charlize Theron.
You were really choking on some spit there.
Some snot. Thank you. So, and then this was so funny. So they're both strapped in on these beds.
Yeah.
Can't move an inch.
Yeah.
Yet there's a design flaw on these beds that are meant to constrain prisoners while they're being taken care of. Because Charlize Theron doesn't even need to strain herself or anything. Just goes beep, 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 beep on a tiny little screen by her fingers.
Lets poison gas in to knock the people out.
Yep.
Turns the fan on to clear it up for them. And then is able to cut open their bands.
Yep. Pretty big design flaw.
Pretty dumb.
Especially if this is like, this is the highest security prison that's off the... This is like the Guantanamo of Guantanamos.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. And then they're like, okay, Charlize is like, you got to trust me. And she goes, okay. And they go to this spot and they're like, we got to climb up this thing. And then Michelle goes, how much time do we have left? And she says, we have 4 minutes. And she goes, that should be enough time. And just starts wailing on her.
Yeah.
And they have a fight. Bad use of your time when you need to escape, but I kind of like it character-wise.
I liked it character-wise.
That she's like, you know what?
And you're telling me the scene had no director?
I know. I was actually like, this is a good action sequence.
I liked it. It was crazy.
I feel like
there was something like it's always a good action scene too when something happens and it's like, oh, I can feel that hurt.
It was fun, and this is when I was like, it reminded me like, oh yeah, Charlize is like a very incredible action actor.
Yeah, and so is Michelle.
Oh yes, but I mean like I just have gotten so sick of her in these movies, and then I'm like, yeah, they haven't been using like this.
Yeah,
you've had this the whole time.
I know.
Like she is such a like she's in Mad Max. You know what I mean? Like, you can use her physique and her, like, power,
Oh, Micah,
you know?
calm down.
But they haven't
Um,
been. And then they finally did, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah, Michelle, she beats her up.
And they got rid of the dumb haircut this time with Charlize.
They did.
We didn't
They
even
did. They
mention
gave
that.
her a normal haircut.
I really think that made her 40% better in the movie.
I
I'm
would
not
agree
even
with
kidding.
that. I would agree with that.
40%.
So Michelle bests her,
Maybe 60.
and is going up the vent without her,
Yeah.
because she doesn't think she needs her. I like that. By the time she gets out, she realizes she's in Antarctica.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she has to go all the way back.
That
and
was
start-
a good use of the title drop, too, because it
Yes.
pulled out. It
What did I
sees-
say? That they got good title drops
And it slammed
location
Antarctica.
drops. By the time she gets back, Charlize is like, "You're gonna need some of these, like big snow coat,
Yeah.
big boots, boots, not boobs." And that's where they end there
Yeah. And then they see Gal Gadot.
at
and
the
it's
very
the
end of the
movie.
movie. Yeah,
So now we've taken care of that part of it.
yeah.
Meanwhile, let's just take care of the little boy
John Cena.
and John Cena. John Cena's not a little boy.
What? I thought the little boy was John Cena.
They go on a road trip, and they for this movie they said, "Hey, John Cena, we know you played a completely different character, but we'd like you to just be fun in this movie." Great decision.
You love kids. That's your weak spot. You're a great uncle.
And you're goofy, and you want to like dance to music. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. You fixed that problem that you
Yeah.
had in the last movie. So they're like going along, and they have this kayak with them the whole time that they're going to take onto this plane. I didn't think about this, but when it happened, I think I did say out loud, "Yeah, that's cool."
I thought it was just a decoy because it was a crappy car and like
Yeah.
it's just a kayaking.
And
trip.
I thought that's kind of clever. No one
I
would
thought so
think
too.
that. And so they get on this plane, and then there's these guys who are going to jump them on the plane, but the flight attendant gives them a key to like the cargo hold.
Yeah.
They go underneath after they knock out the guys, and he pulls out the kayak, and it is a tiny plane.
Uh-huh.
So you're telling me that there are people who like Tokyo Drift and they don't like a tiny plane? Get out of here. Get out of here. It's a tiny plane.
Uh-huh.
And they're both in the movie, and they'd establish a pretty good joke, maybe the best joke in the movie, where he's like, "Hey, are you nervous because of flying?" And he says, "No, I'm nervous because of..."
I think because of his dad or something, and he's like, oh, okay, so it's not the heights. That's good.
Yeah, and then when they get down there, he's like, "I'm glad you weren't nervous about flying."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then they fly down, and they get to, like...
I think they're in Portugal because they all like meet there.
Yeah. And they get to the base, and they're waiting for Dom.
Yeah.
So then Dom has this sequence where where he goes to somewhere.
Well, he goes to Rio de Janeiro.
Yes.
Um,
Oh yeah, the drifting scene.
to
or
find
the
just a racing scene. To find Dante.
Yeah.
Goes to the big party. This felt like such like I felt like an homage to their own movies. This scene.
I was mad at myself when it was like showing the montage and we're getting ready for a drag race. I was thinking like, oh, this is like the first movie. And I was like, this is so dumb.
They tricked you.
I like, they've turned me into a fan by this movie.
Yeah.
I've been beaten into submission.
Yeah. And then I thought something that I thought, and this just makes me sound like an old person, but like my first thought was like, people are still doing this.
Yeah.
No one's grown out of this yet. That's just me being an old crotchety person.
Meanwhile, every time we go to sleep, we hear a car that's like revving.
And I've never been in a
screaming by.
country as colorful and beautiful as, or a city as Rio de Janeiro. So it's
Yeah.
like, who cares, Jordan? Shut up.
Yeah. It's kind of the whole series here.
Yeah.
And so he's going to do a race. Vin Diesel, he's looking for Dante. Dante shows up.
He's
And-
wearing a fun Aladdin outfit.
He's wearing an Aladdin outfit.
He reminds me of Genie
He does.
a lot.
And then what seems like a girlfriend that he has almost, or he's treating her like
someone
a girlfriend.
he's had a history with.
Yeah, not a girlfriend. That's the wrong description. And then like a friend of Vin Diesel. They're in this race.
Yeah.
And they go, and during the race, Jason's like, "Hey, you're going to have to make a choice. That's the problem with family. You can't always save everybody." So the whole movie's trying to teach Vin, he's trying to teach him, like, you cannot save everybody. You can't come down to earth, embody a man or become a man and save humanity. Is what this movie is trying to teach him, and he is saying, "No, I can," and that's why they use the metaphor of a Christ and an Antichrist, because this movie is trying hard to show that Vin Diesel is that. I'm not even comfortable putting the sentence together.
Isn't that wild?
But that is what the movie is trying to say.
During the race, Momoa puts bombs on both the other cars. One of the dudes explodes, and then Vin saves the girl at the last moment from her exploding car.
Yeah.
But he loses the race.
Yeah. And then he goes to like a hideout with the girl who turns out to be the sister of...
Well, he goes to the home of the woman who is the mother of his child. We have been to this apartment before, Micah.
Okay.
In the 5th movie.
And this is who he had the child with, not Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay.
And so he discovers that this is her sister.
This is when I'm like, another knock against the movie. I'm like, we're getting way too much into the lore. I can't remember
Who
this
cares
crap.
if this is her sister? He doesn't need to be reminded of why he needs to fight for something. And then we're with this character for so little of a time. It's like, we don't have time to care about her development.
No.
But they give her time because
This
she's leading some
bad.
Immoral life. But her sister was such a moral person.
Yeah.
And he gives her, he encourages her to be a good person. But then it's the classic, like, kind of a sexist trope in a way where it's like, okay, I have to go do this thing. She's like, I'm coming with you. And he said, no, you got to stay here and be a better person.
Yeah.
And don't help me anymore. And you're not in the rest of the movie. Okay, so why was she in it at all?
Well, and the movie is, the cast is so big. It's like, no.
Did not need it.
Just cut her.
Didn't
You
need
could have saved like $2 million right there, probably.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And then he, Dante tracks him down and they get onto the bridge that Fast 5 ended on.
What? Oh, huh? Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
And another good sequence.
Yeah.
The action was cool, and Brie Larson catches up and she's wearing this badass blue suit with like
cool.
sneakers on. And they got the best of Jason.
Completely, you could cut her out of the movie, though, and nothing would change.
You could. I would hope that there's something a little...
I'm sure there's more for her to do in the next movie. I'm sure.
Yeah. And Vin Diesel has been talking about how he wants to do a female-led spin-off movie. He's recently said that. And I'm now...
He just likes talking, doesn't he?
He does. But I'm now realizing, like, oh, that'd be Gal Gadot, Michelle Rodriguez, Jordana Brewster, of course. Although she's always on the sideline, so maybe not her.
She did fight in this movie, though. She can do stuff.
That's true.
They just don't ever really let her do a lot of stuff.
Charlize Theron, and then the leader of the group would, of course, be Brie Larson. Probably.
Yeah.
Or like the network connection or whatever. Yeah. And then inevitably Brie Larson will be in 2 franchises she doesn't want to be in.
Yep. It's pretty clear. It feels like it's written all over her face anymore, in my opinion.
I'm just kidding. I think she likes being in Captain Marvel. I'm just teasing.
Well, yeah. I just am. It's like almost like a new realization I've come to with her, where it's like I don't think she's going in the right direction in her career.
Yeah,
personally, that's my opinion.
I think there's a weird career thing. I do think there's also just like there's something weird where like everyone flipped the switch.
Well, she had that interview that everyone got really mad at her about. Where she downplayed how much work all the stunt people did for Captain Marvel.
Which is weird because I remember trying to find that interview and not being able to find it.
Okay. I don't think I've ever watched it, but still people got pissed at her because of a comment she had made like that. Yeah.
I just, if I remember right, that stunt comment is like really out of context and not really what she said. Anyway, that's what I remember when I was looking it up. What?
Clickbait?
I think so. Sometimes people just love to hate.
That's not any reasoning for how I feel about her.
No, the career thing I think is legitimate, where it's like, this is a weird career move. It turns out I like the movie, so I'm not like, oh, this was suicide for you on this move. But I'm always thinking, and maybe this is like the more artistic minded part of me, where it's like, you shouldn't be in too many huge franchises unless you are just like a brute, like, Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Where it's like, don't you want to flex like your acting muscle though?
Well, that's what it feels like because she's such a great actor.
Yeah.
And she's so funny too.
Yeah.
She's been in so many funny things that it almost feels like she's trying to make us forget that part of her career. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like
Yeah.
disagreeing with like all this stuff. The Princess Unicorn was interesting when it's not called Princess Unicorn Store.
Yeah.
But she directed that, but
And
I did forget about that one. But yeah, I just in terms of these like big bombastic franchises and stuff,
Yeah.
it's just doesn't feel right to me.
And I will say, like, even though I wasn't too impressed with the the Captain Marvel trailer, she did look like she was being goofy and
I don't really remember.
yeah, there's just like there's a moment that feels very Brie Larson in the way that I enjoy her.
Yeah.
Where she like crashes into something and she gets up and she's like, ah, it happened again. And it was just very like, oh, that's kind of more the energy I want out of you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. You
She's
can come
in
on the
this
show
movie so
anytime
little
you want.
to really like to talk to probably for me to be that annoyed by anything.
Yeah.
But in this scene, she gets shot. She does not die, but she does get shot, so she's down for the count.
Yeah.
And
Is she in the rest of the movie?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Then, that girl does show back up, the sister, and takes Bree to the hospital.
He uses a car door to like block bullets and stuff like that.
But Vin and Dante fight.
Yeah. And Dante is bested, but then he had it all planned from the get-go. And then they get away, take him away, and then Vin Diesel. I mean, what happens after this?
I don't know. Does he just go to Portugal?
Well, I know Han and that part of the crew, they're like, there's someone I need to go see.
Yeah.
And so they go and meet Jason Statham.
Yep.
I'm unclear why they needed him.
Oh, yeah, Helen Mirren's in this movie too for like a second.
Yeah.
I don't know why they need him either, other than access to cars and computers and money.
That's what it was.
I think that's really it.
That is
because
what
they're
it
in
was.
London.
That to me though, like watching this movie, there's so many characters, and then knowing how big the budget is now, I'm like, just save Statham for the next movie.
I know, right?
Because he gets one scene where they fight, and Han looks like he's about to fall asleep the whole time.
I know.
And then he's not even in like the last scene of the movie or anything.
No.
Well, none of them are. This is like their last scene, right?
Well, they're on the plane. We do see him on the plane.
Oh, we do see them on the plane, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and then Jason Momoa. A lot of Jasons here. Vin
does get arrested by Jack Reacher in the scene after the Dante stuff. But throughout all of this, or maybe it was right before this, I think actually is how it happened. Vin like saved that guy.
Yeah.
And by the end of this scene, that guy was like, "Okay, I'm on your side now.
Yeah.
I'm
ready for the barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm a Corona man.
You've converted me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he's Judas.
It's a cult. This is all a cult.
He's
he
Judas.
He
Jordan. Oh my gosh. Oh man. He's even in charge of the money, just like Judas. Oh my gosh. So, lots of stuff happens. And then John Cena gets attacked in his bunker, and everyone's converging on this big fight out in the desert / road. John Cena is in a vehicle that Vin Diesel's been working on, which is a tank.
I thought John Cena had been working on it.
Oh, I thought Vin was working on it. I think they might have both been working on it
as
together.
brothers.
I think so.
In love.
Yes. Just like Philadelphia. And
What?
The city of brotherly love.
Oh.
He's in like a tank car that has missile launchers on the side.
Great. That's fine. Let's do it.
I'm like, yeah, this is what I want a Fast and Furious movie to be. And there's a huge fight. All the action's pretty cool.
Yeah.
At one point, Vin Diesel drives his car onto the freeway, smashes onto other cars. We all saw it in the trailers. Still kind of awesome.
Uh-huh.
2 helicopters shoot each car door and try to pull them apart, but Vin Diesel's too strong.
Well, he's got the NOS.
He's got the NOS. He's able
to... Does he use NOS there?
He does.
Okay.
And he's able to bring the helicopters together and crash.
Uh-huh.
He's then able to aim the helicopters to hit other cars that he needs to.
He is a living god.
If you like any of the Fast and Furious movies, why is this not one of your favorites? He's throwing helicopters at people with his car.
What more do you need from him?
What more could you possibly want
And then not
out of
only
Fast
that,
and Furious?
so the kid is trying to dislodge cannons in the back of the car, and he does.
It got jammed.
Yeah, but then Dante pulls him. They're driving like 80 miles an hour. Pulls the kid into his car, and then
He says yoink when he grabs him.
yeah, love that.
How can you not like this when your bad guy says yoink?
And then blah blah blah. John Cena sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
But this is when we go back to the beginning of the movie when he was teaching his son how to drift, and he was telling his son, you got to trust me, you got to listen and stuff. As it all comes to this moment when they are going like 100 miles per hour, and he tells his son, like, trust me, jump. And the kid jumps from car to car. And gets his son back. So then they go to a dam.
And when I saw, like I said earlier in the episode, when I saw the dam, I said, please drive down it, drive down it, drive
Two
down
giant
it.
oil tankers on both sides of him.
Semi-trucks.
But they're oil tankers.
When you said oil tankers, I was thinking
and
like
the boat,
like off the coast
ship.
of something.
Well, I guess that's probably more appropriate.
What was that? Who played that Comedy Bang Bang character who bought the oil tankers as a family business?
That I can't remember, but was that a recent one?
That was pretty recent.
Yeah,
That was very
I can't remember,
funny.
but it was very funny. Was it like Katie Rich or something?
I think it was.
That might not be right, but yeah, very funny.
And she's like, we keep spilling oil, but we give out mason jars of our oil because it's a family business.
And then the rest of the crew shows up on a plane, and they're like, we're gonna save you, Ex Machina style, or do Ex Machina style. Like
it made me think you were so right, but
okay.
my brain just only thought of the movie Ex Machina, and I'm like, what is happening?
It is sci-fi. But then Jack Reacher betrays everyone, and like the plane explodes.
He shoots it,
but we
down.
don't actually see anyone die.
But I think they died.
But if they do the time travel thing, they died.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we never had a last moment of seeing them in fear dying. You know.
Yeah. If they don't do time travel, they're 100% alive.
Yeah.
If they do time travel, they died.
You said do.
Do.
So they're dead. So that leaves Vin only one decision: drive down the dam. And this is my chemistry question.
Okay.
So I'm such a dumb person. But
No, you're
but
not.
there's
You
balls
really aren't.
of fire chasing them down.
Yeah.
Like they're enveloped in balls of fire.
Yeah.
And he releases some NOS to get them the extra boost they need.
Oh, I see what you're...
Would that
Combustion.
explode their car?
Absolutely, right? It would catch
But
on fire.
would it not
and
because the NOS is like specifically connected to a certain part of the engine, so it's safe?
I think it would probably catch up and blow you up. And
That's what I
kill
would
you.
think too,
Yeah.
because like they're surrounded by fire and their car's probably so hot.
But here's the thing that you're forgetting: Vin Diesel's driving.
Well, no, I didn't forget. I
Not Dominic Toretto.
just wanted a little science lesson.
Vin Diesel's driving.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordan. You know what? Here is actually the answer to any physics questions in Fast and Furious.
Was Vin Diesel driving?
No, I am Groot.
Oh,
That's the answer.
okay. Got it.
So yeah,
I just had these questions pop into my head, but I have no desire to go on YouTube and watch someone explain it to me.
no.
You know?
Life is too short for those kind of things.
It's too short.
We're about to have a
I
child.
like to think I'm a very curious person, but I'm not 15 minutes curious with ads.
By the way, Patrick Williams came out with a new video.
Yeah.
It's on Bollywood Movies.
Yeah, I saw that he went to India.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he posted about it. He went to India like last March.
Whoa.
And that's where they shot it.
Whoa.
Pretty cool, huh?
He was talking about it, and he said that he's never that sure about anything he does as far as like his pride, I guess. But he's like, I can assure you this is like one of the best things I've ever done.
Oh, that's awesome. And his post, he said that, yes, I did go to the Tenet building. 'Cause he was in Mumbai.
Cool. Oh, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, well, got to watch it. Wait,
Yeah.
he went in March, you said?
I think that's what the post said.
Wow. Cool.
I
So,
think. So yeah, he gets to the bottom of the dams. Him and his son are fine, but they have no car.
yeah.
And then the fire's still coming for them or something.
Well, the fire's still
the
coming.
dam broke.
And no, Jason Momoa blows it up.
That's right.
Or no, it is blowing up from this whole thing.
And then I thought, like, man, if there's like 20 more minutes of this movie, that's going to be a big bummer because
Yeah.
this is just all coming to a head. And part of me is like, but we just don't get cliffhangers anymore.
Yeah.
And I just don't think they're going to do that because that's just not a thing anymore. But then I thought briefly, like, well, I guess it's not that much of a spoiler. We came late to the party. But when we watched Severance, that was a huge cliffhanger on the season.
Yeah.
And it was so fun because I had never seen something that cliffhanger heavy in years.
Yeah.
So I
think the biggest cliffhanger before that we watched was when Hank sat on the toilet in Breaking Bad and realized it was Walt.
Yeah.
And it was like, I remember watching that and being like, it was almost like I needed to pull out a calendar and X off every day until Breaking Bad premiered. Cause I was like,
I know.
I can't even
and do you remember the opening shot of the next season?
It was him going to Denny's.
No, this is actually a deleted scene.
Oh, okay.
Hank is still on the toilet, and he is so shocked by it. But he went into their bathroom because he needed a little bit of extra time in there.
Uh-huh.
He had such explosive diarrhea that he flew through the house.
Oh my gosh.
Worth it? Anyway,
nope.
This movie ended on a pretty big cliffhanger.
Yeah, he hugs his son as the water crashes over him, and it cuts to black.
Yeah, and I loved that.
And then it shows Gal Gadot, but
yeah,
it's weird because cliffhangers in movies is, I'd say, a general rule of thumb: don't do it. It's not a good idea. But it was kind of fun in this one.
It was fun. I think especially because we know this is a 2-parter,
and this series is a soap opera.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know what? Yeah, okay. And when that happened, I'm like, I can't believe that not only did I like this movie, but I'm, dare I say, excited to see Fast 11.
Well, I think what also helps with the cliffhanger of this choice is this series already has like barely any stakes at all.
Yeah.
So the fact that they ended on a cliffhanger is like their last form of stakes they can bring.
Yeah. And then there's a post-credit scene where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson returns, which I'd heard beforehand, but I was surprised that he is coming back.
Yeah.
And again, a sentence that I actually feel disgusting saying. I was like, they got him back. Good. I thought, awesome, he's going to be in the next one. And I'm sick to my stomach that I would ever be excited to see that schmo. But here we are. I don't know, maybe it's fatherhood about to happen, and I just got to change my ways and be a fast guy now. But here we are.
You got to start living your life a quarter mile at a time.
1/4 mile at a time. So we did it, folks. We covered Fast and the Furious, and we liked a movie unabashedly, and we liked a movie that critics and fans are not liking.
Yeah. Whoops.
So
not the first time that's happened on our podcast.
No, but I just think that speaks to how much we did enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
So rate this podcast and join our Patreon, patreon.com/Micah McCaw, and listen to our episode this month on Kick-Ass. And then listen to our episode next month on Kick-Ass, but don't watch Kick-Ass 2.
Do not watch it.
Please don't watch that movie. Seriously. I was like, it was so offensive, but not in like in a way that like got under my skin, and I truly hated it. But it's fun to hear us rant about it.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you about one more thing before we go. There is a tier on Patreon called the Cormorant tier, and it is the most expensive tier, but you get the extra podcast, you get the extra music, you get extra videos, and every 3 months you get merch. So it's pretty cool, but basically it's a loyalty program. And don't skip ahead. I'm telling you, you'll want to hear this. So in 3 months after you sign up, and there's been 3 payments, and you've gotten all the other great bonus content, you will get sent to you a mug. And on that mug, in the MPU font, it says, "I made Jordan and Micah watch Fast and Furious." So if you want that mug, I'm going to be posting about it today. That's the only way you can get it. And because so many of you asked, if you are a lovely fan who said, "Man, Micah, you got to cover Fast and Furious," I think it may only be right that you do it.
And if you want to just do it for the mug, that's fine.
Do it for the mug.
You can go back to the other tier that you were at afterward.
Yeah, you can downgrade tiers if you want.
I think sometimes
That's fine.
people get scared about the commitment level of it, but you can always change.
Get the tier and then go back to the $3 or the $5 or the $10.
Yeah.
Sure, who cares?
But treat yourself to this mug.
By paying for it.
Yeah.
But also getting a lot of extra stuff. That's well worth the
You do get a
value.
lot of extra cool stuff too.
Yeah, so thank you for listening, and share it with a friend. And next month, we will be back in X-Men,
Wow.
and we will be covering a movie called Logan with a very special guest. And I edited this episode recently, and I gotta tell you, one of our best of the entire year.
Wow.
So thank you for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Vroom vroom.
Hey y'all, it's Sean, and I'm so honored and grateful for Micah and Jordan to place my little bit of Fast 10 commentary here at the end of the podcast. I have to say, there was no better way to take on watching this movie than to watch it with Micah and Jordan. Coming into this, I had this album on my phone of videos and photos just, bashing the franchise mostly, despite the couple movies that I liked before Fast 10. And I was also just, a filter for everything that I had seen movie buzz-wise about this movie through Watch Mojo or Film United, with all of their buzzworthy predictions, like would Paul Walker be CGI'd back into Fast 10, or would there be time travel? And first of all, this only further solidified that for all the predictions that were wrong and things that ended up becoming true, Watch Mojo is just full of shit. And Film United is like the National Enquirer of movie buzz. I deleted this library of hate posts from my phone, though, because, I had fun. I had so much fun watching this bombastic movie in theaters with Micah and Jordan, and I have no regrets with that experience. What better people to watch this movie with and laugh through this movie with and get thrilled through this movie with than them?